In the vast darkness between stars, where alien empires clash for dominance, humanity was supposed to be nothing more than a footnote, a primitive species that stumbled into galactic politics by accident. The Zephyrians ruled with crystal technology that could shatter planets. The Korvaxi wielded bioweapons that turned entire worlds into graveyards. The Nethari commanded fleets of ships that moved faster than thought itself. But they all made one critical mistake. They underestimated what happens when a human soldier falls in battle. They thought combat was just about weapons, tactics, and superior firepower. They never imagined that the most dangerous thing in the universe wasn't a weapon at all. It was the length a human would go to save one of their own. When Sergeant Maya Chan collapsed during the siege of Kepler Station, bleeding out on cold metal floors while alien forces closed in, something extraordinary happened. Something that would shake the very foundations of galactic civilization and prove that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their refusal to leave anyone behind. What came next would change everything. Forever. The plasma bolt seared through the air inches from Maya Chen's helmet, leaving a trail of superheated gas that made her visor fog momentarily. She pressed herself against the twisted wreckage of what had once been a supply depot, her pulse rifle clutched tight against her chest. The metallic tang of recycled air, mixed with the acrid smell of melted steel, filled her nostrils through the environmental suit's filters. Reaper 7 to command. We're pinned down in Sector 12, she whispered in her comm unit, trying to keep her voice steady despite the chaos erupting around her. Zephyrian forces have us surrounded, requesting immediate backup. Static crackled in response, broken by fragments of other transmissions from across Kepler Station. The orbital research facility had become a battleground 3 days ago when the Zephyrian Empire decided that humanity's presence in the Outer Rim was no longer tolerable. What started as a diplomatic mission had quickly devolved into a desperate fight for survival. Maya peered around the corner of her cover, watching as crystalline energy beams sliced through the corridor ahead. The Zephyrians moved with mechanical precision, their tall, insectoid forms protected by shimmering force fields that turned their projectile weapons into little more than expensive noisemakers. Each alien warrior stood nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 arms that allowed them to wield multiple weapons simultaneously. Their compound eyes could track movement in spectrums humans couldn't even perceive. "Ma'am," came the voice of Private Jackson over the squad channel. "I count at least 12 hostiles advancing on our position. We've got maybe 2 minutes before they reach optimal firing range." Maya checked her ammunition counter. 37 rounds of magnetically accelerated tungsten slugs remained in her current magazine, with 2 spare magazines on her belt. Against 12 Zephyrians with energy shields, it might as well have been 37 pebbles. "Copy that, Jackson." "Williams, what's your status on those charges?" "Almost finished, Sergeant," replied Corporal Williams from somewhere behind her. "Give me 90 seconds, and I'll have this bulkhead ready to blow. Should create enough debris to block their advance." Maya nodded grimly. It was a good plan, assuming they survived the next 90 seconds. She glanced at her remaining squad members scattered throughout the damaged corridor. 5 humans against 12 aliens with superior technology and tactical positioning. The odds were not in their favor. A high-pitched whine filled the air, growing steadily louder. Maya's blood turned to ice as she recognized the sound. Incoming plasma artillery. "Take cover." The explosion that followed turned the world into a kaleidoscope of orange light and flying metal. The deck plates beneath Maya's feet buckled and warped from the intense heat. Emergency lights flickered and died, plunging large sections of the corridor into darkness broken only by the occasional spark from damaged power conduits. When the ringing in her ears finally subsided, Maya realized she could no longer hear Williams working on the charges. "Williams, report." Silence. "Jackson, check on Williams." "Sergeant." Jackson's voice was strained, barely audible over the static in her comm unit. "Williams is down." The blast threw him into a support beam. He's not moving." Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. Williams had a wife back on Earth. 2 kids who were probably doing homework right now, completely unaware that their father was bleeding out on a space station hundreds of light years away. She pushed the thought aside. She had to focus on keeping the rest of her squad alive. Can anyone else finish prepping those charges? Negative, ma'am. I don't know the first thing about demolitions. The whine of energy weapons grew closer. Maya could hear the Zephyrians communicating in their chittering, clicking language as they advanced. She estimated they had maybe 60 seconds before the aliens would be close enough to pick off her remaining squad members one by one. All right, listen up, she said, checking her weapon one final time. We're going to make a fighting withdrawal to junction point 7. Stay low, move fast, and keep your heads down. On my mark. Maya took a deep breath, tasting the metallic bite of recycled air. She thought briefly of home, of the small apartment in New Angeles where she'd grown up, of her brother who was probably just starting his shift at the spaceport. Then she pushed those thoughts away. Her squad needed her focused. Mark! She rolled out from behind cover, bringing her rifle up in one fluid motion. The first Zephyrian warrior came into view around a bend in the corridor, its 4 arms wielding what looked like a combination plasma rifle and neural disruptor. Maya squeezed the trigger 3 times in rapid succession, watching as her tungsten round sparked harmlessly off the alien's energy shield. The Zephyrian's compound eyes fixed on her position immediately. It raised 2 of its weapons in her direction, energy building in the crystalline focusing chambers. Maya dove sideways just as twin beams of superheated plasma scorched the air where she'd been standing. Moving, she called out, sprinting toward the next piece of cover while Jackson and the others provided suppressing fire. Their weapons might not penetrate the energy shields, but the constant barrage of projectiles forced the Zephyrians to adjust their aim, buying precious seconds. The next 20 meters felt like 20 kilometers. Maya's boots pounded against the deck, plating as she ran, her breath coming in short gasps inside her helmet. Behind her, she could hear the distinctive crack hiss of Zephyrian energy weapons as they returned fire. A plasma bolt singed the air beside her left shoulder, close enough that she could feel the heat through her armor. She reached the next junction and immediately spun around to provide cover for her remaining squad members. Jackson emerged from behind a pile of debris, moving in a low crouch with his rifle held ready. Behind him came Martinez and Thompson, the last 2 members of their original 8-person squad. Jackson, you and Martinez take point, Maya ordered as they regrouped. Thompson, you're with me on rear guard. We move in 15-meter bounds until we reach the main corridor. It was a standard tactical withdrawal, the kind of maneuver they'd practiced hundreds of times in training simulations. The only difference was that in training, the enemy weapons couldn't actually kill you. Here, every mistake was final. They moved through the damaged station in a series of calculated rushes, always keeping someone in position to provide covering fire while others advanced. The Zephyrians followed relentlessly, their superior numbers allowing them to maintain constant pressure. Maya could hear their alien voices growing closer with each bound her squad made. When they finally reached the main corridor, Maya allowed herself a moment of hope. The wider space would give them better fields of fire, and there were multiple evacuation routes if they needed to fall back further. She was just about to order the next movement when her proximity alarm began screaming. Contact left. The Zephyrian ambush squad had been waiting for them. 4 alien warriors emerged from concealed positions along the corridor, their energy shields already fully charged and weapons primed. They must have used the maintenance tunnels to get ahead of Maya's retreating squad. Suppressing fire, Maya shouted, bringing her rifle around toward the new threat. Her tungsten round sparked uselessly off energy barriers, but she kept firing anyway, trying to buy time for her squad to reach cover. Martinez made it 3 steps before the plasma beam caught him center mass. His environmental suit's armor plating simply ceased to exist, vaporized in a flash of blue-white energy. He collapsed without a sound, his weapon clattering across the deck plates. Martinez is down. Thompson's voice cracked over the comm channel. Maya felt rage building in her chest, but she forced it down. Emotion would get them all killed. She needed to think tactically, find a way to get her remaining people out alive. Jackson, Thompson, fall back to Checkpoint Charlie. I'll cover you. Sergeant, you can't hold them alone. That's an order. Maya watched her remaining squad members disappear around a corner, then turned her attention back to the advancing Zephyrians. 8 of them now, moving with the patient confidence of predators who knew their prey was trapped. Their energy shields flickered and sparked as a round struck them, but none of her shots penetrated. She was going to die here. The knowledge settled over her with surprising calm. She'd always known this was a possibility when she enlisted, but somehow she'd never really believed it would happen. Death was something that happened to other people, to the faces in the casualty reports that came across her desk. A plasma bolt struck the wall beside her head, showering her with sparks and molten metal fragments. Maya rolled to a new position, continuing to fire even though she knew it was hopeless. Her ammunition counter showed 11 rounds remaining. Then she heard something that made her blood freeze. Jackson's voice over the comm channel, high and desperate. Sergeant, Thompson's hit. He's bleeding bad. Maya closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of command settle on her shoulders like a physical force. Thompson was barely 20 years old, fresh out of basic training. He'd joined the Colonial Marines to pay for college, planning to study xenobiology when his tour was up. Now he was dying in a corridor light years from home because she'd failed to get him to safety. How bad? She asked, still firing at the advancing aliens. Plasma burned across his chest. He's unconscious. I need help moving him. 8 rounds left. The Zephyrians were less than 30 meters away now, close enough that she could see the intricate patterns etched into their carapaces. In another minute, maybe 2, they would be close enough to ensure their shots couldn't miss. Maya made her decision. She activated her emergency beacon, knowing that it would broadcast her location to any human forces in the area. Then, she pulled a thermite grenade from her belt, armed it, and prepared to make her last stand as expensive as possible for the enemy. Jackson, you get Thompson and you run. That's a direct order. Ma'am, I can't leave you. You can and you will. Tell command that Sergeant Maya Chan died buying time for her squad. Tell them the Zephyrians are using ambush tactics in the maintenance tunnels. And Jackson. Yes, ma'am. Tell Thompson's family he died brave. Maya pulled the pin on the thermite grenade and held it ready. The Zephyrians were 20 meters away now, their weapons charging for what would certainly be the final volley. She could see her reflection in their compound eyes, a small human figure in battered armor, defiant to the end. 5 rounds left. She fired them all, knowing they wouldn't penetrate the energy shields, but needing to try anyway. The tungsten slugs sparked harmlessly off the shimmering barriers, adding their brief flashes to the constant light show of energy weapons and emergency illumination. The lead Zephyrian raised its primary weapon, energy building in the crystalline focusing chamber. Maya could see her death approaching at the speed of light, a beam of superheated plasma that would end everything in an instant. She released the grenade's safety lever. The explosion came from an unexpected direction. Instead of the plasma beam she'd been expecting, a massive detonation shook the entire corridor from behind the Zephyrian formation. Emergency klaxons began wailing as atmosphere rushed out through newly created holes in the station's hull. Through the smoke and debris, Maya saw something impossible. Human Marines were advancing down the corridor, their weapons spitting tungsten rounds that somehow were penetrating the Zephyrian energy shields. The aliens' defensive barriers flickered and died as electromagnetic pulse grenades exploded among their ranks. Reaper 7, this is Lieutenant Commander Harrison. Hang tight, we're coming for you. Maya stared in disbelief as the rescue force swept through the corridor with military precision. These weren't ordinary Marines. Their armor was different, sleeker, with additional power packs and what looked like localized shield generators. Their weapons were firing some kind of specially designed rounds that disrupted energy barriers on contact. Within minutes, the Zephyrian ambush force was neutralized. Maya found herself surrounded by heavily armed humans who moved with the kind of confidence that came from superior training and equipment. She'd never seen gear like theirs before. Sergeant Chun, Lieutenant Commander Harrison approached her, his helmet retracting to reveal a weathered face with kind eyes. "We need to get you out of here. Can you move?" "Yes, sir. But my squad already extracted. Private Jackson and Corporal Thompson are receiving medical attention aboard our ship. Williams didn't make it, but we recovered his body." Maya felt a wave of relief, so intense it made her knees weak. Her people were alive. She hadn't failed them after all. As they moved through the station toward the extraction point, Maya couldn't help but stare at her rescuers. Their equipment was clearly human-made, but more advanced than anything she'd seen in her 8 years of military service. The armor incorporated technologies she didn't recognize, and their weapons were firing ammunition that defied everything she knew about energy shield dynamics. "Sir," she said to Harrison as they reached the docking bay, "I have to ask, who are you people? That gear, those weapons, I've never seen anything like them." Harrison paused at the airlock leading to their ship. Beyond the transparent aluminum portal, Maya could see a vessel unlike any human craft she'd ever encountered. It was sleek and predatory, incorporating design elements that seemed almost alien in their sophistication. "Sergeant," Harrison said quietly, "what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. As of today, you're being transferred to a unit that officially doesn't exist. We call ourselves the Terran Defense Initiative, and we've been preparing for this war longer than anyone realizes." Maya stepped through the airlock onto the strange ship, her mind reeling with questions. As the hatch sealed behind her, she caught a glimpse of the ship's registry number etched into the bulkhead. TDS Prometheus, Experimental Deep Strike Vessel. Whatever was happening here, she realized, was much bigger than a simple border skirmish with the Zephyrian Empire. Humanity, it seemed, had been keeping secrets. The medical bay aboard the TDS Prometheus was unlike anything Maya had ever seen in her years of military service. The walls seemed to pulse with a soft, organic light that shifted from blue to green as medical sensors tracked her vital signs. Advanced holographic displays showed three-dimensional models of her body, highlighting areas of stress and minor injuries with pinpoint accuracy. Dr. Sarah Kim, the ship's chief medical officer, ran a scanner over Maya's shoulder where a plasma bolt had grazed her armor. "You're lucky, Sergeant. Another few centimeters, and that energy beam would have gone right through your environmental suit. The thermal shock alone would have killed you." Maya winced as the scanner passed over a particularly tender spot. "How are my men?" "Thompson will make a full recovery. The plasma burn was serious, but our medical technology is more advanced than standard colonial marine equipment. He'll be back on his feet in a few days." Dr. Kim paused, studying something on her scanner display. "Jackson has some minor injuries from debris, but nothing that won't heal. And Williams?" The doctor's expression grew somber. "I am sorry. By the time our recovery team reached him, there was nothing we could do. The impact with the support beam was fatal." Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of command settle on her shoulders once again. Williams had been a good soldier, a good man. His wife would receive the standard death benefits. His children would grow up without a father. And somewhere in the vast bureaucracy of the Colonial Marine Corps, he would become another statistic in another report. "Doctor," Maya said quietly, "Lieutenant Commander Harrison mentioned something about a transfer. What exactly is the Terran Defense Initiative?" Dr. Kim glanced toward the medical bay's entrance, then leaned closer to Maya. "That's not really my area of expertise, Sergeant. But I can tell you this much. Everything you think you know about humanity's place in the galaxy is about to change." Before Maya could ask what that meant, the medical bay doors slid open with a soft hiss. Lieutenant Commander Harrison entered, followed by a woman Maya didn't recognize. She was tall and lean, with prematurely gray hair, and the kind of intense eyes that suggested she'd seen things most people couldn't imagine. Her uniform bore the insignia of a full colonel, but the design was unlike anything in the standard colonial marine dress code. "Sergeant Shun," Harrison said, "I'd like you to meet Colonel Elena Vasquez, commanding officer of the Terran Defense Initiative. She has some things to explain that are going to sound impossible at first." Colonel Vasquez studied Maya with the calculating gaze of someone accustomed to making life-or-death decisions based on incomplete information. "Sergeant, before we begin, I need you to understand that everything we're about to discuss is classified under the Omega Protocols. That means it's beyond top secret. It's information that could destabilize the entire human colonial government if it became public knowledge." Maya straightened in her medical bed, feeling the familiar weight of responsibility that came with classified briefings. "I understand, ma'am." "Do you?" Vasquez pulled up a chair beside the medical bed, her expression serious. "Because what I'm about to tell you is going to fundamentally change how you see humanity's role in the galaxy. 3 days ago, you thought we were a minor power struggling to survive against superior alien civilizations. You thought our technology was primitive compared to the Zephyrians, the Korvaxi, and the Nethari. That's correct, ma'am. The intelligence briefings make it clear that we're outgunned and outnumbered by every major galactic power." Colonel Vasquez smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Sergeant, those intelligence briefings are deliberately misleading. They're part of a deception operation that's been running for over 30 years. The truth is humanity isn't the primitive newcomer struggling to survive in galactic politics. We're the apex predator that the other species haven't figured out yet." Maya felt her worldview shift, like the moment when you realize you've been looking at an optical illusion wrong, and suddenly see what was really there all along. "Ma'am, I'm not sure I understand. Let me show you something." Vasquez activated a holographic projector built into her wristband. The air above Maya's medical bed shimmered, resolving into a three-dimensional star map that showed the local galactic sector. "This is what the Colonial Marine Corps intelligence briefings show you. Human territory as small scattered colonies barely maintaining a foothold in alien-dominated space." The hologram shifted, revealing a very different picture. Human space suddenly expanded dramatically, showing hidden colonies, secret research facilities, and what appeared to be an extensive network of military installations. This is reality. Humanity controls roughly 30% more territory than any other single species in this sector. We've been using advanced stealth technology and false flag operations to hide our true strength while we prepared for the inevitable conflict. Maya stared at the holographic display, her mind struggling to process the implications. But the Zephyrian Empire, the Korvaxi hegemony, their technology is clearly superior to ours. Is it? Harrison stepped forward, activating another holographic display. This one showed technical schematics for the weapon systems Maya had seen the rescue team use. "Sergeant, you saw our Marines neutralize Zephyrian energy shields with standard projectile weapons. How do you think we accomplished that?" I assumed you developed some kind of specialized ammunition." "In a way, yes. But the real breakthrough wasn't in ammunition design. It was in understanding how energy shield technology actually works." Harrison highlighted a section of the schematic. Every species in the galaxy uses essentially the same shield technology, a discovery made by the ancient progenitor civilization millions of years ago. The Zephyrians, the Korvaxi, the Nethari, they all copied existing technology without really understanding the underlying physics. Colonel Vasquez leaned forward. "Humans, on the other hand, developed our technology independently. We approached the problem from first principles, without any preconceived notions about how energy manipulation should work. The result is that our technology operates on completely different principles than anything the aliens use." Maya felt like she was falling down a rabbit hole. Everything she thought she knew about human military capabilities was apparently wrong. "Ma'am, if that's true, why haven't we used these advantages to end the conflict with the alien empires?" "Because we've been waiting for the right moment, Vasquez said. Sergeant, humanity learned a hard lesson from our own history. Every time a technologically superior civilization encountered a less advanced one on Earth, the results were catastrophic for the weaker party. We didn't want to make that mistake with our galactic neighbors. Dr. Kim looked up from her medical scanner. The colonel is talking about the Terran Accords, Sergeant. A secret document signed by every human colonial government 40 years ago. It established protocols for how humanity would integrate with galactic civilization without causing a genocide. The plan was simple, Vasquez continued. We would present ourselves as a minor power, just advanced enough to be useful, but not threatening enough to warrant extermination. We would gradually build relationships with the major empires, demonstrate our value as allies and trading partners, and slowly reveal our true capabilities over the course of several generations. Maya shook her head. But something went wrong. The Zephyrian Empire became increasingly aggressive, Harrison said. Our intelligence networks detected plans for systematic conquest of human space. They weren't interested in coexistence. They wanted to eliminate us entirely and claim our resources for themselves. The holographic display shifted again, showing what appeared to be intercepted alien communications. Maya couldn't read the Zephyrian script, but the accompanying translation was chilling. The human contamination must be cleansed from the sacred sectors. Their primitive biology offends the eternal harmony of crystal consciousness. Religious fanaticism, Vasquez said grimly. The Zephyrians have convinced themselves that humanity's existence is somehow spiritually offensive. They're not interested in conquest or resource extraction. They want genocide. Maya felt cold despite the medical bay's controlled temperature. So the attack on Kepler Station was a test run, Harrison confirmed. They're probing our defenses, learning our tactical responses, preparing for a full-scale assault on human space. Our analysts estimate we have perhaps 6 months before they launch a coordinated attack on every human colony simultaneously. Dr. Kim finished her medical scan and stepped back. Which brings us to why you're here, Sergeant. The Terran Defense Initiative needs experienced combat veterans who can adapt to unconventional warfare methods. Colonel Vasquez stood up, her expression grave. Sergeant Shun, you've been selected for a very specific mission. We're going to reveal humanity's true capabilities to the galaxy, but we need to do it in a way that doesn't trigger a massive coalition against us. We need surgical strikes that demonstrate our technological advantages without appearing to be a threat to species that aren't actively hostile. Maya sat up straighter in the medical bed. What kind of mission, ma'am? You're going to collapse in combat again, Vasquez said. But this time it's going to be deliberate. We're inserting you and a specially trained team into a high-profile engagement between multiple alien forces. You'll appear to be overwhelmed and defeated, triggering what our enemies will think is a desperate rescue operation. Harrison smiled. Except the rescue will demonstrate capabilities that will fundamentally change how every species in the galaxy views human military potential. We're going to show them what happens when they threaten one of our soldiers. Maya felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. And if the plan works? If the plan works, Colonel Vasquez said, we change the entire strategic balance of the galactic sector without firing a shot in anger. The major empires will have to recalculate their threat assessments. The minor powers will see humanity as a potential protector rather than a target. And species like the Zephyrians will realize that genociding humans is significantly more difficult than they assumed. Dr. Kim began packing up her medical equipment. The beauty of the plan is that it uses the aliens' own assumptions against them. They expect humans to be predictable, emotional, and tactically inferior. We're going to demonstrate that our emotional attachments to individual soldiers actually make us more dangerous, not less. Maya thought about Williams bleeding out alone in a damaged corridor while alien forces closed in. She thought about Thompson, barely 20 years old, and fighting for his life in a conflict he hadn't chosen. She thought about Jackson, following orders even when it meant leaving his sergeant behind to die. "When do we start?" she asked. Colonel Vasquez smiled, and this time there was genuine warmth in her expression. "Welcome to the Terran Defense Initiative, Sergeant. We start immediately." The next several hours passed in a blur of briefings, equipment fittings, and tactical planning sessions. Maya learned that the TDS Prometheus was one of 12 experimental vessels in the Terran Defense Initiative fleet, each one incorporating technology that was decades ahead of standard colonial marine equipment. The ship's crew consisted entirely of personnel who had been recruited from elite military units and sworn to absolute secrecy about their mission. The technology demonstrations were particularly eye-opening. Maya watched as engineers showed her personal armor that could become completely invisible to most sensor types, weapons that could penetrate any known energy shield configuration, and medical systems that could heal injuries that would normally be fatal. The advances weren't just incremental improvements. They represented fundamental breakthroughs in multiple fields of science. The key insight, explained Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the ship's chief technology officer, was realizing that most alien races approach technology development very differently than humans do. They tend to find one solution that works and then optimize it incrementally over thousands of years. Humans, on the other hand, constantly look for completely different approaches to the same problems. Maya examined a rifle that looked similar to her standard marine issue weapon, but incorporated targeting systems that bordered on prescient. "How does this targeting computer work?" "It doesn't predict where enemies are going to be," Dr. Walsh said. "It calculates where they can't afford to be and directs your shots accordingly." The psychological pressure of near misses forces most aliens into predictable movement patterns, making subsequent shots much easier. The tactical briefings revealed the scope of what they were planning. Maya's team would be inserted into a three-way engagement between Zephyrian forces, Korvaxi bioweapon specialists, and Nethari fast attack squadrons. Intelligence suggested that all three alien species were competing for control of an ancient progenitor artifact that had been discovered in the Kepler Nebula. "The artifact itself isn't important," Lieutenant Commander Harrison explained during the mission planning session. "What matters is that representatives from every major galactic power will be monitoring the engagement. When you appear to be overwhelmed and surrounded, every intelligence service in the galaxy will be watching to see how humanity responds to imminent defeat." Maya studied the tactical displays showing the engagement area, and they'll see a rescue operation that demonstrates capabilities they didn't know we possessed. Exactly. But the demonstration has to look authentic. You and your team will be in real danger, facing real alien forces with lethal intent. The only difference is that your backup will be more sophisticated than anything our enemies expect. That evening, Maya found herself in the observation deck of the Prometheus, staring out at the stars through the ship's advanced transparent aluminum viewports. Earth was invisible from here, lost among millions of other points of light, but she knew it was out there somewhere. Home to 8 billion humans who had no idea that their species was about to announce itself as a major galactic power. Thompson found her there, his chest wrapped in regenerative bandaging, but otherwise looking remarkably healthy for someone who'd been near death just hours earlier. "Sergeant," he said quietly, "I wanted to thank you. Jackson told me what you did back on the station. You were ready to die to give us time to escape." Maya turned to look at the young Marine. "That's what we do, Thompson. We don't leave people behind." "I know, ma'am. That's what makes us different from them, isn't it? The aliens, I mean. They see soldiers as expendable resources. We see them as family." Maya nodded, thinking about Colonel Vasquez's words about emotional attachments, making humans more dangerous rather than less. Maybe Thompson had stumbled onto something important. Maybe the thing that made humanity unique in the galaxy wasn't their technology or their tactics. Maybe it was their refusal to accept that anyone was expendable. "Thompson," she said, "how do you feel about volunteering for another impossible mission?" The young Marine grinned. "Sounds like Tuesday, ma'am. What do you need me to do?" The Kepler Nebula burned with the light of newborn stars, its swirling clouds of gas and cosmic dust creating a backdrop that was both beautiful and deadly. Ancient progenitor ruins drifted through the stellar nursery like the bones of gods, their crystalline structures still humming with energy after millions of years of abandonment. Maya Chan floated in the cramped confines of a standard colonial marine dropship, studying the tactical displays one final time before their insertion into what every intelligence agency in the galaxy would soon be monitoring. Her team consisted of 12 hand-picked volunteers, each one sworn to secrecy about their true capabilities and the nature of their mission. "Approaching the debris field now," announced pilot Lieutenant Rodriguez over the comm system. "Sensors are picking up multiple alien vessels already engaged in the area. Looks like the Zephyrians, Korvaxi, and Nethari all arrived ahead of schedule." Maya checked her equipment one final time. Standard colonial marine armor and weapons deliberately chosen to appear primitive compared to the advanced gear she'd seen aboard the Prometheus. Hidden within the conventional equipment were sophisticated sensors and communication devices that would allow the Terran Defense Initiative to monitor every aspect of the engagement. "Listen up," she addressed her team over the squad channel. "Remember, we're supposed to be a routine patrol that stumbled into something way beyond our capabilities. We fight hard, we fight smart, but we eventually get overwhelmed. The key is making it look authentic while staying alive long enough for extraction." Corporal Martinez, Thompson's replacement after the young Marine had been reassigned to advanced training, raised his hand. "Sergeant, what if the aliens don't cooperate? What if they're not aggressive enough to make the scenario believable?" "Trust me, Martinez. According to intelligence, all three species consider this sector to be their exclusive territory. They'll be shooting at anything that doesn't belong to their particular empire. Our job is to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and look desperate enough to trigger a massive rescue operation." The dropship shuddered as it entered the nebula's outer layers, cosmic radiation playing across its hull in sheets of blue and green aurora. Through the viewport, Maya could see the ancient progenitor structure that had triggered this three-way conflict. It was massive, easily the size of a small moon, its crystalline spires reaching out into space like frozen lightning. "Holy hell," whispered Private Davis. "Is that thing artificial?" "According to the archaeologists, it's some kind of research station," Maya replied. "The progenitors built it to study stellar formation processes. The problem is that it's also a treasure trove of advanced technology that every species in the galaxy wants to claim." Pilot Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm. "Sergeant, I'm reading energy signatures consistent with active combat in grid sectors 4 through 7. Multiple ships, heavy weapons fire. Looks like the party started without us." "Perfect. Take us in closer, but make it look accidental. We're supposed to be surprised by what we find here." The dropship altered course, moving deeper into the nebula toward the ancient structure. As they approached, the scale of the engagement became clear. Zephyrian crystal ships hung in space like frozen geometrical theorems, their energy weapons carving bright lines across the cosmic darkness. Korvaxi bio-vessels writhed and pulsed as they maneuvered, their living hulls adapting to weapon impacts in real time. Nethari craft moved like schools of metallic fish, too fast for human eyes to track individually, but creating complex patterns that spoke of coordinated intelligence. "Jesus," Davis muttered. "How many ships are out there?" Maya counted at least 30 vessels from 3 different species, all competing for access to the progenitor structure. Energy weapons, bioprojectiles, and exotic matter streams crisscrossed the space between combatants, creating a 3-dimensional battlefield unlike anything in human military doctrine. "Rodriguez, can you get us close to the structure without attracting attention?" "Maybe, Sergeant. There's a lot of interference from the nebula. I might be able to slip us through the sensor shadows." The dropship moved carefully through the engagement zone, using debris and energy discharges to mask its approach. Maya watched the alien vessels through the viewport, noting their tactics and weapon capabilities. The Zephyrians favored long-range precision strikes, their crystal ships maintaining formation while targeting specific systems on enemy vessels. The Corvaxi used swarm tactics, overwhelming opponents with rapidly regenerating bioconstructs that could absorb tremendous damage. The Nethari relied on speed and coordination, striking in perfectly synchronized waves before disappearing back into the nebula's concealment. Approaching the structure now, Rodriguez announced, "I can set you down on one of the outer platforms, but I'll need to maintain a holding pattern in case we need a quick extraction." Maya stood up and checked her squad's equipment one final time. Each Marine carried standard projectile weapons that would be virtually useless against alien energy shields. Hidden sensors would record everything that happened, providing the Terran Defense Initiative with detailed intelligence on alien combat capabilities while making the subsequent rescue look like a desperate improvisation. Remember, people were supposed to be outmatched, but determined. We fight like Marines, but we don't reveal any capabilities that aren't already in the Colonial Marine Field Manual. The aliens need to think they understand everything about human military doctrine. The dropship touched down on a crystalline platform that extended from the progenitor structure like a metal flower petal. Maya led her squad out into the nebula's ethereal light, their boots ringing against the ancient alien metal. The structure around them hummed with dormant energy, its surfaces covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. "Fascinating," said Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, the mission's xenoarchaeologist, as she emerged from the dropship behind the Marines. "The crystalline matrix is still active after millions of years. The progenitor's technology is incredible." Maya deployed her squad in defensive positions around the landing site, while Dr. Shaw began her examination of the structure. According to their cover story, they were investigating reports of progenitor artifacts that might have military applications. In reality, they were bait in an elaborate trap designed to reshape galactic politics. "Sergeant," called out Thompson, who was manning a sensor array at the platform's edge, "I'm reading multiple contacts approaching our position. Looks like 3 different ship types, closing from different vectors." Maya smiled grimly. The plan was working perfectly. The alien forces had noticed their presence and were converging to investigate or eliminate what they perceived as human interference in their territorial dispute. "Defensive positions, everyone. Let them come to us." The first attackers were Corvaxi bioconstructs, writhing masses of living tissue that could reshape themselves into different configurations depending on tactical requirements. They flowed across the structure's surface like liquid metal, adapting their forms to navigate the complex crystalline architecture. "Open fire," Maya called out as the bioconstructs came into range. Her squad's weapons chattered, sending streams of tungsten rounds toward the approaching enemies. The projectiles struck the bioconstructs and disappeared into their malleable flesh, causing minimal damage. The alien creatures absorbed the kinetic energy and used it to fuel their advance, moving faster as they took more hits. "They're not staying down," Martinez called out, switching to a new firing position as his initial target regenerated from the damage. "Keep shooting. Concentrated fire on individual targets." The Corvaxi bioconstructs reached the platform and immediately began reshaping themselves into combat configurations. Tentacles sprouted weapon pods that fired streams of corrosive enzymes, while specialized sensory organs tracked human movement patterns. Maya watched her squad's conventional tactics prove completely ineffective against enemies that could literally evolve countermeasures in real time. Then, the Zephyrian warriors arrived. They came in floating crystalline pods that touched down on the platform with mathematical precision. 8-foot-tall insectoid forms emerged, their energy shields already charged and weapons primed. Unlike their bioweapon enemies, the Zephyrians relied on overwhelming technological superiority rather than adaptive evolution. 2 different enemy types, Maya called out over the comm channel. "Thompson, Martinez, concentrate on the Crystal Warriors. Davis, Shaw, keep the bioconstructs busy." The platform became a chaotic 3-way battlefield as human Marines found themselves caught between 2 very different alien combat doctrines. Zephyrian energy beams carved through the air with surgical precision, while Korvaxi bioweapons sprayed acid and neural toxins in wide-area attacks. Maya's squad used the structure's crystalline formations for cover, but their conventional weapons were proving inadequate against both enemy types. Sergeant, Dr. Shaw called out from behind an upturned section of progenitor architecture. I'm reading massive energy signatures approaching from the nebula. Multiple contacts moving fast. The Nethari fast attack squadrons arrived like a storm of living metal, their ships transforming from flight configuration to combat mode as they swept across the platform. Unlike the other two species, the Nethari warriors were humanoid in appearance, but moved with mechanical precision that suggested cybernetic enhancement. Maya watched her carefully planned scenario spiral into something far more complex than anticipated. Instead of facing a single enemy force, her squad was now caught in the crossfire of a three-way alien battle with themselves as the unwitting prize. This wasn't in the briefing, Martinez muttered as he dove for cover behind a crystal formation, narrowly avoiding a Nethari plasma stream. Adapt and overcome, Marine, Maya replied, though privately she was beginning to worry about their extraction timeline. The Terran Defense Initiative's rescue force was supposed to arrive just as her squad became overwhelmed, but the current situation was escalating faster than anyone had predicted. A Korvaxi bioconstruct flowed around her cover position, reshaping itself into something that looked like a cross between a spider and a machine gun. Maya rolled away from its weapon ports just as they opened fire, filling the air with projectiles that dissolved anything they touched. Fall back to secondary positions, she ordered, watching her squad execute a fighting withdrawal across the platform. They were performing exactly as trained, but conventional human tactics were proving inadequate against enemies that operated by completely different rules. Thompson's position came under attack from 3 Zephyrian warriors simultaneously. Maya watched him methodically engage each target, his training evident in every movement, but his projectile weapons simply couldn't penetrate their energy shields. The aliens advanced with mechanical patience, apparently confident that human resistance was merely a delay rather than a threat. Thompson, fall back now. The young Marine attempted to disengage, but a Nethari warrior had flanked his position during the firefight with the Zephyrians. Energy weapons fire from 3 different directions converged on Thompson's location, forcing him to take cover behind increasingly inadequate protection. Maya felt the familiar weight of command responsibility settle on her shoulders. She could order a general withdrawal, probably get most of her squad back to the dropship alive, but that would ruin the entire operation. The Terran Defense Initiative needed footage of human forces being overwhelmed, needed to trigger the rescue scenario that would demonstrate humanity's true capabilities. But she wouldn't sacrifice her people for a deception operation, no matter how important the strategic implications. All units, fighting withdrawal to the dropship, she ordered. Rodriguez, prep for immediate extraction. That's when the progenitor structure came alive. Ancient systems that had been dormant for millions of years suddenly activated in response to the energy weapon fire on the platform. Crystalline formations began to glow with internal light, and the metallic surfaces under their feet started to vibrate with harmonic frequencies that seemed to resonate in their bones. The effect on the alien forces was immediate and dramatic. Zephyrian energy weapons began malfunctioning as their crystalline focusing systems were disrupted by the harmonic interference. Korvaxi bioconstructs writhed in apparent pain as the vibrations affected their neural networks. Nethari warriors stumbled as their cybernetic implants were overloaded by electromagnetic pulses from the activated structure. What the hell is happening? Davis called out as the platform around them transformed into something that looked more like a living organism than ancient architecture. Dr. Shaw consulted her instruments frantically. The structure is responding to the energy weapon discharges. It's some kind of defensive system designed to neutralize threats to progenitor sites. Maya saw their opportunity. All units advance. Press the attack while they're disabled. Her squad moved forward aggressively, Their conventional weapons suddenly effective against enemies whose defensive systems have been compromised by the ancient technology. Tungsten rounds punched through disrupted energy shields, found gaps in regenerating bioarmor, and damaged cybernetic systems that could no longer adapt to incoming threats. For a brief moment, it looked like they might actually win the engagement through sheer determination and lucky timing. Maya allowed herself to hope that they could complete their mission and extract without needing the elaborate rescue scenario. Then, the structure's defensive systems shut down as suddenly as they had activated, apparently designed for brief bursts of protective activity rather than sustained operation. The alien forces recovered quickly, their superior technology reasserting itself as the harmonic interference faded. Maya found herself exactly where the mission planners had intended, overwhelmed, surrounded, and facing imminent defeat despite having fought with skill and determination. The only difference was that the danger was completely real, and the margin for error had just become razor thin. "Rodriguez, we need extraction now," she called into her comm unit. Static replied. The nebula's interference, combined with energy weapon discharges and the brief activation of progenitor technology, had disrupted their communications with the dropship. Maya-chan was about to collapse in combat for the second time in her career. But this time, she didn't know if anyone was coming to save them. The silence on the comm channel was deafening. Maya-chan pressed herself against the crystalline formation that provided her only cover, watching as alien forces closed in from 3 different directions. Her squad was scattered across the progenitor platform, each Marine fighting their own desperate battle against enemies whose technology made human weapons seem like primitive tools. "Thompson, report," she called over the squad channel, hoping the short-range communications were still functional. "Pin down, Sergeant. 3 Zephyrian warriors have me trapped behind this crystal structure. Every time I try to move, they light up my position with enough energy to melt steel." Maya could see Thompson's predicament from her own position. The young Marine was crouched behind a formation of ancient alien crystal, but the Zephyrians were methodically destroying his cover with surgical precision. Each energy beam carved away another piece of protection, steadily reducing the barrier between him and death. "Martinez, can you provide supporting fire for Thompson?" "Negative. I've got 4 of those bioconstructs trying to flame my position. Every time I shoot one, it just absorbs the damage and keeps coming." Maya assessed the tactical situation with growing desperation. Her squad had performed exactly as planned, demonstrating human courage and determination while being gradually overwhelmed by superior alien technology. The problem was that the overwhelming was becoming too real, too fast. Dr. Shaw's voice crackled over the comm from her position near the dropship landing site. "Sergeant, I'm reading massive energy buildups in the alien vessels. I think they're preparing for some kind of coordinated strike on the platform." Maya risked a glance over her cover, studying the alien ships that hung in the nebula's swirling light like predatory angels. The Zephyrian crystal vessels were aligning their primary weapons arrays, while Korvaxi bioships were inflating specialized combat organs that glowed with bioluminescent preparation. The Nethari fast attack craft had formed a perfect geometric pattern that suggested coordinated action. "They're not just trying to capture the platform," she realized with growing horror. "They're planning to sterilize it completely. Wipe out everything, including us." The mission parameters had assumed that the alien forces would want to take human prisoners for interrogation, or at least preserve the progenitor structure for their own research purposes. No one had anticipated that all 3 species would decide that denying the site to their enemies was more important than claiming it for themselves. A Korvaxi bioconstruct flowed around the edge of Maya's cover position, its surface rippling with adaptive camouflage that made it difficult to track visually. She fired 3 quick bursts from her rifle, watching the tungsten rounds disappear into the creature's malleable flesh without apparent effect. The bioconstruct extruded weapon pods that began charging with corrosive enzymes designed to dissolve human armor. Maya rolled away from her position just as acidic projectiles began eating through the ancient crystal where she'd been hiding. The bioconstruct pursued her with flowing grace, its form shifting to optimize for hunting humans across the complex terrain of the platform. "This is Reaper 7 to any colonial marine forces," she broadcast on the emergency frequency, knowing that every intelligence agency in the galaxy was probably monitoring their situation. "We are under attack by multiple alien species in the Kepler Nebula. Request immediate assistance." The response came from an unexpected source. Instead of the familiar voice of Lieutenant Commander Harrison or the Terran Defense Initiative Rescue Force, Maya heard something that made her blood freeze. "Reaper 7, this is Admiral Marcus Webb aboard the CNS Intrepid. We've detected your emergency beacon and are moving to assist. Hold your position for extraction in 10 minutes. Admiral Webb commanded the Colonial Navy's Third Fleet, a conventional force equipped with standard human technology that would be completely outmatched by the alien vessels already engaged in the area. If Webb's ships attempted a rescue operation with conventional weapons and tactics, they would be slaughtered within minutes of arrival." Maya realized that the Terran Defense Initiative's carefully planned deception was about to become a genuine disaster. The rescue force that was supposed to demonstrate humanity's hidden capabilities was nowhere to be found, replaced by conventional military units that didn't know they were flying into an impossible situation. "Admiral Webb, negative on that assistance." Maya called into her comm unit. "The situation here is beyond conventional capabilities. Repeat, do not approach this position." Static answered her. The nebula's interference was getting worse, probably enhanced by the alien forces as a tactical countermeasure. Whatever Webb had heard from her emergency broadcast, he wasn't receiving her warnings about the true nature of the threat. A plasma beam from Nethari Warrior carved through the air inches from Maya's helmet, the superheated energy leaving a trail of ionized gas that made her visor fog momentarily. She returned fire instinctively, knowing her projectile weapons were useless against the aliens' energy shields, but needing to do something to maintain the illusion of effective resistance. Thompson's voice crackled over the squad channel, strained with exhaustion and growing desperation. "Sergeant, I'm down to my last magazine. These crystal warriors just keep coming." Maya could see Thompson's position from across the platform. The young Marine had been forced back against one of the progenitor structure's main support pillars, a crystalline formation that rose hundreds of meters into the nebula's swirling light. 3 Zephyrian warriors were advancing on his position with mechanical patience, their energy weapons charging for what would certainly be a final volley. She made her decision. Maya broke cover and sprinted across the platform toward Thompson's position, firing as she ran. Her tungsten round sparked harmlessly off Zephyrian energy shields, but the constant barrage forced the aliens to adjust their aim, buying precious seconds for the trapped Marine. "Thompson, fall back to my position. I'll cover you." "Sergeant, no. They'll cut you down before you reach me." Maya ignored the protest and continued her charge. A Corvaxi bioconstruct flowed into her path, extruding appendages that dripped with corrosive enzymes. She fired a full burst into its central mass, watching her rounds disappear into the creature's adaptive flesh, then dove underneath its reaching tentacles. The bioconstruct's enzymes sizzled against the platform's surface where she'd been running, eating through ancient alien metal like acid through paper. Maya rolled to her feet and kept moving, determined to reach Thompson before the Zephyrian warriors could complete their coordinated attack. That's when she heard something that changed everything. The sound came from above, a deep harmonic vibration that seemed to resonate through the entire structure. Maya looked up to see something impossible descending through the nebula's swirling clouds. It was a ship, but unlike any human vessel she'd ever seen. The craft was enormous, easily the size of a battlecruiser, but it moved with fluid grace that defied everything she knew about spacecraft dynamics. The ship's hull seemed to flow like liquid metal, its surface rippling with patterns of light that suggested active camouflage systems beyond anything in human technology. Weapon ports opened along its sides like flowers blooming, revealing energy projectors that hummed with barely contained power. "Holy hell," whispered Dr. Shaw over the comm channel. "What is that thing?" Maya stared at the descending vessel, her tactical mind trying to process what she was seeing. The ship incorporated design elements from multiple alien species, but combined them in ways that suggested a completely different technological philosophy. Zephyrian crystal formations flowed seamlessly into Korvaxi bioarchitectural curves, while Nethari mechanical precision provided structural support for the hybrid systems. "It's human," she realized with growing amazement. "That's a human ship." The vessel settled into a hovering position above the platform, its massive bulk somehow managing to remain airborne without any visible propulsion systems. Weapon ports along its hull began tracking the alien forces that had been besieging Maya's squad, target acquisition systems locking onto threats with mechanical precision. "Reaper 7, this is Admiral Sarah Chun aboard the TDS Leviathan," came a voice over the comm channel that made Maya's heart skip a beat. "Sorry we're late. Had to make sure all the right people were watching before we crashed the party." Maya stared up at the massive ship in disbelief. "Admiral Chun? Ma'am, are you? Your sister?" "Yes, Maya. And before you ask, yes, I've been lying to you about my assignment for the past 3 years. We'll discuss the family implications later. Right now, let's give our alien friends a demonstration they'll never forget." The TDS Leviathan opened fire with weapons that redefined Maya's understanding of destructive capability. Energy beams emerged from the ship's projectors, but instead of the simple directed energy that characterized most spacecraft weapons, these were complex streams that seemed to bend space itself. The beams struck Zephyrian energy shields and simply ignored them, passing through the defensive barriers as if they didn't exist. Korvaxi bioconstructs on the platform began convulsing as exotic radiation disrupted their neural networks at the quantum level. Nethari warriors stumbled as their cybernetic implants were overwhelmed by electromagnetic pulses that operated on frequencies their technology couldn't filter. But the real demonstration came when the alien spacecraft tried to engage the Leviathan directly. A Zephyrian crystal ship fired its primary weapons array at the human vessel, energy beams that could have carved through a small moon. The beams struck the Leviathan's hull and simply stopped. The ship's surface absorbed the incoming energy and redirected it, using the alien's own weapons to power its defensive systems. A squadron of Nethari fast attack craft attempted to overwhelm the human vessel with coordinated strikes from multiple vectors. The Leviathan responded by doing something that defied every law of physics Maya thought she understood. The ship seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously, present at every point where the alien weapons fired, but somehow avoiding all damage through what appeared to be controlled manipulation of space-time. Korvaxi bioships launched swarms of self-replicating attack organisms, living weapons that could adapt to countermeasures in real time. The Leviathan's point defense systems engaged the swarm with weapons that operated on principles Maya couldn't even begin to comprehend. Each defensive beam seemed to target the bioweapon's fundamental life processes, causing them to simply cease existing rather than being destroyed in any conventional sense. Within minutes, the three-way alien battle that had been raging around the progenitor structure came to a complete halt. The surviving alien vessels began withdrawing from the engagement zone, apparently recognizing that they had encountered something far beyond their ability to combat or comprehend. "Impressive, isn't it?" Admiral Chen's voice carried a note of satisfaction that Maya recognized from childhood. 40 years of secret research and development building on technologies we reverse-engineered from progenitor sites across human space. We've been preparing for this revelation for longer than you've been alive. Maya watched alien ships fleeing into the nebula's concealing clouds, their retreat monitored by sensor systems that could apparently track targets through any known form of stealth technology. "Sarah, what have you people built?" "The future, little sister," a version of humanity that the galaxy will have to respect rather than tolerate. Watch what happens next. Additional human vessels began appearing throughout the engagement zone, their advanced stealth systems deactivating to reveal a fleet unlike anything Maya had imagined. Ships that combined the best aspects of alien technology with uniquely human innovation, creating vessels that operated by principles no other species had discovered. But the most impressive demonstration was yet to come. As Maya watched in amazement, the TDS Leviathan began extending tendrils of energy toward the wounded members of her squad. Thompson, who had been on the verge of being overwhelmed by Zephyrian warriors, was suddenly surrounded by a healing field that began repairing his injuries at the cellular level. "That's our secret weapon," Admiral Chen explained. "Not superior firepower or advanced technology. It's the fact that we refuse to accept casualties as inevitable. Every human life is worth whatever resources it takes to preserve it." Dr. Shaw's voice came over the comm channel, filled with scientific excitement. "The energy fields are manipulating matter at the quantum level. They're literally rewriting the physical laws that govern cellular damage and biological trauma." Maya felt something shift in her understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy. This wasn't just about military superiority or technological advancement. It was about a fundamental difference in how humans valued individual lives compared to other species. "Admiral," she said, "what happens now? Every intelligence agency in the galaxy just watched us demonstrate capabilities that will change everything. Now we find out whether 40 years of careful planning was enough to prevent a galactic war," Admiral Chen replied. "Because every species in the galaxy just learned that humanity is a lot more dangerous than they assumed. The question is whether they'll try to destroy us before we become too powerful, or whether they'll decide that having us as allies is preferable to having us as enemies." Maya looked around at her squad, all of them now surrounded by healing energy fields that were repairing damage that should have taken weeks to heal naturally. Thompson was already back on his feet, his injuries completely gone. Martinez was checking his equipment with the focused attention of a Marine ready for action. Even Dr. Shaw looked energized rather than exhausted by their ordeal. "And if they choose war?" Admiral Chen's smile was audible in her voice. "Then they're going to discover that collapsing in combat is the least dangerous thing that can happen when you threaten a human soldier." The TDS Leviathan extended transport beams that lifted Maya's squad from the platform with gentle precision, bringing them aboard a ship that represented the culmination of decades of secret human technological development. As they rose through the nebula's swirling clouds toward the massive vessel, Maya caught glimpses of other human ships appearing throughout the engagement zone. The galaxy was about to discover what humanity had been building in secret. The question was whether civilization would survive the revelation. The briefing room aboard the TDS Leviathan was a masterpiece of human engineering that incorporated design elements Maya had never seen before. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal that shifted between transparency and opacity as information flowed across their surfaces. Holographic displays showed real-time data from across the galaxy, tracking the reactions of every major civilization to humanity's dramatic revelation in the Kepler Nebula. Maya Chun sat at a conference table that appeared to be carved from a single piece of exotic matter, studying intelligence reports that painted a picture of a galaxy in transition. 3 days had passed since the engagement at the progenitor structure, and the ripple effects were still spreading through galactic civilization like shockwaves from a stellar explosion. The Zephyrian Empire has recalled all their fleets to defensive positions around their core worlds, reported Commander Elena Rodriguez, the Leviathan's intelligence officer. Their crystal consciousness apparently interprets our demonstration as a direct threat to their spiritual existence. Admiral Sarah Chun, Maya's sister and commanding officer of the Terran Defense Initiative's primary fleet, studied the holographic displays with the focused attention of someone accustomed to making decisions that affected entire civilizations. What about the Korvaxi and Nethari responses? The Korvaxi hegemony is split, Rodriguez continued. Their military caste wants to launch a preemptive strike before we can deploy our technology more widely. But their scientist caste is fascinated by our bioregeneration capabilities. They're requesting formal diplomatic contact to discuss possible technology exchanges. Maya watched alien fleet movements tracking across the displays, each ship representing thousands of lives that could be lost if humanity's revelation triggered the galactic war everyone feared. And the Nethari? Most interesting of all, Rodriguez smiled. The Nethari Collective has offered to form a defensive alliance. Apparently, their cybernetic consciousness recognizes that our technology operates on principles they haven't discovered. They want to learn from us rather than fight us. Admiral Chen leaned back in her chair, which automatically adjusted to provide optimal support. Three very different reactions to the same demonstration. The question is whether we can manage the diplomatic implications without triggering a coalition against us. Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, who had been analyzing progenitor technology recovered from the Nebula engagement, looked up from her research station. Admiral, I've been studying the energy patterns from our weapons during the demonstration. The aliens aren't just impressed by our firepower. They're terrified by the fact that we can manipulate fundamental forces they consider immutable. Maya thought about the healing fields that had repaired her squad's injuries at the cellular level, technology that treated biological damage as a temporary inconvenience rather than a permanent limitation. How advanced are we compared to the major galactic powers? That's difficult to quantify, Dr. Shaw replied. In some areas, we're centuries ahead of anything they've developed. But in others, they still maintain significant advantages. The key difference is our approach to problem solving. Admiral Chun activated a holographic display that showed comparative technology trees for the major galactic civilizations. The Zephyrians perfected energy manipulation millions of years ago, then spent their entire civilization optimizing the same basic principles. They're incredibly efficient at what they do, but they've never developed alternatives. The Korvaxi took biological adaptation to its logical extreme, Dr. Shaw continued. They can modify living organisms to accomplish almost anything, but they're limited by the fundamental constraints of biological systems. They've never learned to transcend organic limitations. Maya studied the technological comparisons with growing understanding. And the Nethari achieved perfect cybernetic integration, but they're still bound by the computational principles that govern artificial intelligence. They can process information faster than any biological mind, but they can't think in truly novel ways. Exactly, Admiral Chen said. Humanity developed technology by constantly looking for completely different approaches to the same problems. We didn't perfect one method and then optimize it for millennia. We kept inventing new methods entirely. Commander Rodriguez highlighted a section of the galactic map showing the political implications of humanity's revelation. The problem is that our technological superiority is now common knowledge. Every species in the galaxy has to decide whether they want us as allies, enemies, or something in between. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority communication. The briefing room's displays shifted to show the image of Colonel Elena Vasquez aboard another TDS vessel, her expression serious. Admiral, we're receiving diplomatic overtures from 17 different species. Some want to establish trade relationships, others are offering military alliances, and 3 are demanding that we submit to galactic oversight councils. Admiral Chen frowned. Which 3? The Altarian Republic, the Centauri Hegemony, and, surprisingly, the Rigel Confederation. They're claiming that humanity's technological capabilities represent a threat to galactic stability that requires international supervision. Maya felt a familiar anger building in her chest, the same emotion she'd experienced when alien forces had threatened her squad. International supervision? They want to treat us like children who can't be trusted with advanced technology. It's a predictable response, Dr. Shaw observed. Established powers always try to control emerging threats rather than adapt to new realities. The question is whether we can convince them that cooperation is more beneficial than attempted domination. Admiral Chun studied the diplomatic communications for several moments before making her decision. Colonel Vasquez, prepare formal responses to all 17 species. We'll establish trade relationships with those who approach us as equals, consider military alliances with those who can offer mutual benefits, and politely decline supervision from those who still think humanity is a minor power. Maya watched her sister navigate the complexities of galactic politics with the same analytical precision she'd applied to military problems during their childhood. Sarah, what about the species that might choose direct military action? That's where things get interesting, Admiral Chin smiled. The Zephyrian Empire's military commanders have been reviewing footage from the Kepler Nebula engagement. They've concluded that attacking humanity would require a coordinated effort involving every major galactic power simultaneously. Even then, victory would be uncertain and casualties would be catastrophic. Commander Rodriguez brought up tactical analyses prepared by alien intelligence agencies. The Korvaxi military caste reached similar conclusions. They estimate that defeating human forces would require sacrificing at least 60% of their existing fleet strength. Their governing bioforms consider that an unacceptable cost for eliminating what they now recognize as a potential ally rather than a threat. Dr. Shah highlighted a section of her research data. The key insight is that our demonstration wasn't just about superior firepower. We showed them that we can heal injuries they consider fatal, repair damage they consider permanent, and solve problems they consider impossible. That changes the entire strategic calculus. Maya thought about Thompson, who had been near death from plasma burns before the Leviathan's healing systems repaired his injuries completely. The young Marine was now back on active duty, completely recovered from wounds that would have ended his military career under normal circumstances. It's not just about winning battles, she realized. It's about the fact that we refuse to accept defeat as final. They saw us take casualties and then undo the damage completely. Exactly, Admiral Chin said. Every other species in the galaxy has accepted certain limitations as fundamental laws of reality. They assume that death is permanent, that some injuries can't be healed, that some problems can't be solved. Humanity has always refused to accept those limitations. A new priority communication arrived, this one from Earth's colonial government. President Martinez appeared on the display, her expression mixing relief with apprehension. Admiral Chun, congratulations on the successful revelation of the Terran Defense Initiative. The Colonial Congress has voted to declassify the entire program and begin public disclosure of our true technological capabilities. Admiral Chun straightened her chair. Thank you, Madam President. What are your orders regarding ongoing diplomatic contacts? Full disclosure to all human colonies, gradual revelation of our capabilities to allied species, and preparation for possible military action against any power that threatens human space. The days of pretending to be a minor galactic power are officially over. Maya felt a strange mixture of pride and concern as she watched humanity step onto the galactic stage as a major power for the first time. Everything was changing, and the consequences would ripple through civilization for generations to come. Madam President, she said, standing to address Earth's leader directly, what about the colonies that were established under the assumption that humanity was a minor power? How do we handle the psychological adjustment to being part of a galactic superpower? President Martinez smiled. Sergeant Chun, humanity has always been defined by our refusal to accept impossible situations. Our colonies were built by people who left Earth to seek new opportunities among the stars. I think they'll adapt to their improved circumstances quite well. Dr. Shaw looked up from her analysis station. Madam President, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout human space. It looks like TDS vessels are declassifying their positions and beginning public operations. The briefing room's displays shifted to show real-time footage from colonies across human space. Advanced starships were appearing in orbit around every human world, their presence announced by broadcasts explaining the Terran Defense Initiative and humanity's true technological capabilities. Maya watched colonists emerge from their settlements to stare up at vessels that represented 40 years of secret human achievement. The galaxy is about to discover that humanity has been hiding in plain sight, Admiral Chin observed. Our mining stations were research facilities. Our trading posts were intelligence-gathering centers. Our isolated colonies were testing grounds for advanced technology. Commander Rodriguez highlighted sections of the galactic map where human presence had been dramatically underestimated. Admiral, we're receiving communications from species that are just now realizing how extensive human territory actually is. The Altarian Republic is expressing concern about human installations they didn't know existed. Maya studied the revealed scope of human space, noting strategic positions that suggested decades of careful planning. We've been preparing for this moment since first contact with galactic civilization. Since before first contact, Dr. Shaw corrected. The Terran Defense Initiative was established after we detected alien signals, but before we made formal diplomatic contact. Humanity spent years preparing for galactic politics before anyone else knew we existed. A priority alert flashed across the displays, indicating incoming military contacts. The briefing room's tactical systems activated automatically, showing multiple alien fleets moving toward human space from different vectors. 6 different species, approaching from 3 different directions, Commander Rodriguez reported. But they're not in attack formation. It looks like diplomatic escorts. Admiral Chen studied the tactical displays with growing amazement. They're coming to establish formal diplomatic relations. All of them at the same time. Maya watched alien fleets that had been enemies just days earlier now approaching human space with what appear to be peaceful intentions. What changed their minds? They realized that humanity isn't going anywhere, Admiral Chin said. We're not a minor power that can be eliminated or controlled. We're a permanent fixture in galactic civilization that they have to learn to work with. Dr. Shaw brought up communications intercept from the approaching alien fleets. They're broadcasting formal diplomatic credentials and requesting permission to enter human space for treaty negotiations. The Zephyrian Empire wants to discuss spiritual compatibility between their crystal consciousness and human neural patterns. The Corvaxi hegemony is offering biotechnological exchanges. The Nethari Collective wants to establish information-sharing protocols. And the others? The Altarian Republic, Centauri Hegemony, and Rigel Confederation have all withdrawn their demands for galactic oversight. They're now requesting trade agreements and mutual defense treaties.